The month of June, creativity, communication, breakthroughs, or breakdowns. Watch this video to find out what the astrology holds for this month. Welcome, folks. This is Dr. V, and on this channel, you get the astrology straight up and unadulterated on everything from the cosmic to the existential. And now it's the beginning of the month, so this is a video that's going to give you an overview, as we always do, for the coming month of June that we're going into. If you go back on my channel and see the previous overviews, like I did for the month of April, you see that in general, the prognoses and predictions that I give, they have a pretty high rate of turning out and coming out that way in actuality and in reality. So listen up when we talk about the month of June. Now, this month, it is a very interesting constellation and configuration that we have on the face of it, because we have the Venus and Mercury and Sun conjunction, these three stars, and these three, we call them stars in astrology, not really stars, obviously. It's one is the sun and the other are planets, right? But these celestial objects, right? They are together for a large portion of this month. They're kind of, rolling together. So I'm going to show you actually. So if you have a look at the star map, you see like when the month starts, you have these planets already here, right? They're here. And then as the month progresses, they're just kind of rolling together. They're going to be together for a long period of time. So you see here, they're going to sort of, set themselves apart. And then here they're almost in exact conjunction, all three of them, right? And then they continue for the rest of the month. And it's only towards the end of the month that they sort of break out and break up as they enter into the next sign of Cancer. And so on the face of this is a very beautiful constellation. Obviously, we have with Venus, the planet of Aphrodite, beauty, harmony, right? The playful and charming energy that comes together with Mercury, the thinking, the communications, right? And all of that in Gemini, right? Which is about curiosity and exploration of mental themes, right? And the sun is with all of that, right? The sun it shines the light of consciousness on the themes of beauty and communication, right? So when you have these three planets together for this prolonged period of time, this is a primary time, a perfect time for expressing beautiful communications, creative communications, for thinking about projects that need to be researched, for learning, for going deeper into thoughts, even though, of course, really the kind of deep learning is more, the kind of higher learning is Sagittarius, but then Gemini on the opposite side is more the kind of context, immediate learning, learning lots of little things, right? Learning lots of little things. Sagittarius is like learning that big thing that changes your world, and Gemini is like learning lots of little things which make you smarter and more charming, right? And more eloquent and all of that. And all of that is very strongly emphasized in the month. So if you have, anything that you want to learn, any projects that you want to take up that require a lot of communications, a lot of, research, a lot of social media posting, right? If you want to post on social media more, this is the time to do it, to reach a lot of people, to reach new people as well, who have not, been exposed to your thoughts before. It's a perfect and primary, auspicious time for that. And you should use this time well for this purpose. However, there is a caveat, right? There's a caveat. There's a pretty big caveat, actually. And I'm going to get to that in a bit. So stay tuned so this is not going to be without challenges. There's actually going to be some massive challenges, on this route of creative communications for this month of creative communications that we have coming up. But let's start from the beginning. Let's go into the first days of the month and sort of, go ahead from there, step by step. I think that could be kind of helpful, just to get the the overview of the phases of the month. So the month, it starts with, when we're beginning of June, we have this Mercury is with Uranus. So this is, you in the last days of May, you are likely to have had, seen, or experienced around you in your world, in the news, in your own experience, some type of sudden mental breakthroughs, right? That happens always when you have Mercury with Uranus, right? Sudden mental breakthroughs. Just these last couple of days, I know for sure that it happened in my case on a project, on something that I'm thinking through very hard right now. And then moving on from that, the next constellation that we move into is pretty much right at the beginning, is Jupiter here, which you can see here, in trine with Pluto. This is for the first few days of the month of June. This is in effect. I'm going to make another video on Jupiter in Gemini, because Jupiter just entered Gemini, and that's a long, 1 year phase, which we need to look at in detail. Stay tuned for that. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to this channel and, like, share, support this channel. This is a channel that's just going to grow from here on. It's a relatively new thing, relatively young, even though the channel's been around for a while, but I've just started to really use it again properly. And there's going to be so much more content, so much more coming on this channel. So, it's great to have you here already early on and supporting. Let's get back to the astrology. The Jupiter-Pluto trine that you can see here in the sky, it's basically, this is how things start with. There's some really big ideas right now, some really powerful and big ideas, which is Pluto Aquarius, right? Pluto Aquarius, this is the struggle around big ideas that determines, that define society. Has a very dark side to it too. Control of minds through technology, using technology to control discourses on social media, all of this stuff which you can see now getting much more problematized and much more problematic, fighting over the minds of the people on social media. Obviously, you can see right now it's happening everywhere, even around the wars, Ukraine and Russia and Israel, Palestine, and other issues that are happening right now. This massive war on the minds that is going on social media, right? This is Pluto as well in Aquarius, and it's very transformative and powerful. And there's definitely some new powerful ideas coming through. And this is trining with Jupiter, right? So it's kind of getting this burst right now of lots of new energy on the mental plane, new people hearing these ideas, new technologies being used for reaching people with these ideas. All of this is big in the beginning stages of the month, right? A great time for big ideas being pushed through. You can be sure that right now some really big projects are being hatched and worked on, right? By the powerful as well as by those who are working with and against the power and looking to overturn and transform the power in various ways, the powers that be in various ways, right? So that's happening right now. And also what you have happening in the subsequent days, that Mercury runs into this conjunction as well. So Mercury comes here into Jupiter. So these first couple of days, first week of June, is really incredibly good for coming out with big ideas, right? Coming out with big ideas and reaching new groups of people, new communication platforms, maybe going on different social networks that you weren't before, right? Maybe going on speaking to groups of people that you hadn't spoken to before, starting an email campaign, or whatever, cold emails, or doing an ad that you've never done before, or coming out with a controversial opinion, something that you've been working on, some big idea, and now is the time to bring it to people, bring it to more people in this first week of June, right? This is a primary time for this. And then after this constellation, Mercury leaves Jupiter, right? And then goes and joins with Venus and Sun, and then we get this beautiful constellation that we have for the rest of the month, sort of mid-June. By 10th of June, it's already perfectly in place. But now here comes the thing. Here's the first big challenge that we get to the creative communications energy of the month. And the first big challenge is a square with Saturn. So you can see here Saturn, right? So we have basically kind of this bubbling up of creative energy, creative thoughts, right? New ideas and new ways of expressing things that people are going to be coming up with in June, in these first couple of weeks. And then you face right away the reality check, right? Saturn comes into the square, and that's a reality check. That's like kind of saying like, you need to check this. You need to make sure that it's grounded in reality, right? And this Saturn, it comes from a position of Pisces, right? It's in Pisces. This is a lot to do with the general climate of fears and uncertainty that we have right now. This is kind of correlated with Saturn and Pisces, which is kind of clamping down on that exuberant, bursting energy of creative communications that we have in Gemini with this constellation, right? So basically, think about it this way, that the creative energy, the creative communications that works with the proliferation of ideas, working with people through social media, connecting with lots of others, sharing the ideas and so on, is going to definitely face some big clashes, sometimes in the middle of the month, some big obstacles coming from fears, right? So people will be like, you can't do that, this is wrong, this is kind of, this is whatever, this is not politically correct, or this is whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you're doing, this is crazy what you're doing, this is not the right thing, and so on and so forth. Are you sure you should be doing this? Shouldn't you be doing something else? All of these kind of fear-based obstructions and challenges that the communications will face, right? This is on a personal level that I'm doing this and explaining this right now. I'm going to say a little bit on the mundane, on the political level as well. It's very important that we don't neglect that. We always, if you watch this channel, I look at the astrological constellations typically always with view to what they portend and relate to in the world, right? On the mundane level, in politics, in society, on culture, right? It's very important that we do that. Otherwise, we're thinking like we're seeing people in a vacuum, right? We're not in a vacuum. The decisions that we make, even though, yes, they correlate with the archetypal energy, but the archetypal energies themselves they determine social things, social trends, cultural trends, political trends. And it's within those that we are maneuvering and making our decisions, right? So we need to look at both of those levels always. And I'm going to tell you a little bit on the mundane plane and level as well. So basically, what you can think with this constellation is that we're going to see a lot of, because of the general quality of Venus, Mercury, and Sun together, right? We're going to see a lot of beautiful talk, a lot of nice talking, right? So in the political level, we're going to see a lot of peace talks. Obviously, the world is right now in a very difficult state. And there is going to be a lot of people starting to talk about, let's make peace, or what if we can, make things nice, and so on and so forth, right? So that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. On the face of it, that's a good thing. But because we have the challenges coming, the first one I already told you with the Saturn, it's very quickly going to get clamped down with like, no, there's fears, there's like people, and there's evil in the world as well, right? There's evil too. It's not just fear, there's fears, there's evil. So these kind of peace talks that we can expect right now for this month, I don't give them good chances. So you're going to see when you look at the month as it unfolds, read behind the lines, see who is actually sincere and who is not, who's actually manipulating and using, certain things that they say just to be seen in a certain way for their constituency. This gets much, much clearer as the month progresses. And we get into the second big challenge, which is a few days after, June 15, 16, 17, right? 14, actually already 15, just a few days after, right? Because then here, as you can see here, this beautiful conjunction of Sun, Mercury, and Venus, it runs into its next square. And what's that? It's the square with Neptune. Okay, so after the square with Saturn, right, which was kind of the clamping down from the fears and the hard structures, the harsh realities of the world, right? It's saying like, no, you can't do this. And then right away after, it runs into the square with Neptune. And Neptune obviously is about deception and confusion, right? Especially in the world that we are right now, where a lot of these energies, archetypal energies, they're lived in their lower form, right? Neptune, all of these planets, all of these energies have higher and lower forms, how you can realize them. Neptune, on the highest plane realized, it becomes openness to the cosmos, right? It's like the seventh chakra, open up like this and connect you with the cosmos, right? The universe, the higher forces of the universe, the subtle realms, right? And when it's lived on a low level, then Neptune is deception and lies. Unfortunately, right now, most people and a lot of the important decision makers in our world, they're living these energies on a very low base, repressed level. So what's going to happen is that we're going to see peace talks, right? And lo and behold, there is exactly around this time, June 14, 15, right? We have here a June 14, 15, there is a planned peace conference in Switzerland, right? Where apparently, it's the Western forces or NATO forces, they're looking to find peace in Ukraine, but it seems like they haven't invited Russia. They only invited Ukraine, and they're trying to get China to come. And China obviously is saying like, yo, if you're not inviting Russia, I'm not coming. Russia is saying this is not sincere, what they're doing. They already, determined beforehand that they're not going to accept anything apart from Ukraine's demands. And Ukraine's demands are like basically, completely unacceptable for Russia, obviously, right? So basically, what I can tell you is that this peace conference, June 14, 15, mark my words, it's going to be a farce. It's going to be a deception. It's going to be a ruse. People are doing this in order to present something which is not the case, right? Which is not really what their real intentions are. And the results will basically be that either right after or sometime after, people say, it didn't work out. Russia didn't want peace, But in reality, people who made this conference didn't want peace, right? And that you can see that in the charts. It's literally on the day when this square is starting to perfect, and we have this square here of the Mercury-Venus with Neptune, which basically stands for peace talks that are deceptive, right? Peace talks, Mercury, Venus, square Neptune, deceptive. Okay, so how does the story continue? In the remaining days of the month, basically, the main storyline of this month, it plays out until the middle of this month. And then after that, it kind of just consolidates. So after that, from June kind of 16th, ish, all the way to the end of the month. First, what happens is that these planets, Mercury, Venus, first in June 17th, as you can see here, and then shortly after the Sun, they all start to go into Cancer, right? And then when they go into Cancer, they get these trines. Shortly after, they're getting these trines here. So you see here, Mercury gets the trine to Saturn, and then shortly after Venus as well. So what happens there is that towards the end of the month and then going into July, there is a chance to revisit some of the things that turned out to be very challenging in June, right? So think about this. There's first this creative burst of communications that's starting now, beginning of June, and it's starting to go out, and then it faces the first clash or the first obstruction, which comes from fears and serious structures in the world and saying like, no, you can't do this. And then the next one, which comes to having to wade through and work through confusion and deception and not necessarily very honest and, integrity-driven types of communication, having to work through that. But potentially, if you work through those two phases, the square with Saturn and the square with Neptune, you can actually develop something very powerful and something rich, spiritually rich, that's also tested, right? But then when July comes, it's the time for actually realizing those things, putting those things into action more harmoniously and through a more emotional, heart-driven way, right? So that's when things go into Cancer. So everything moves to Cancer, everything gets much more about following the instincts, the intuitions, driving things through intuitions as opposed to the mental, which is very strong in the beginning, right? Super strong in the beginning as June starts with all of that Gemini energy. Okay? So that's that. And for yourself, when you're looking to how to navigate the coming times, it's always really important to see what your own chart says, what your own chart, your own chart might be activated in certain ways which really change the whole story, right? Everybody's unique. Everybody has a unique, absolutely unique birth chart, right? If you like astrology, you need to start with reading your own birth chart, right? Either you can do that by yourself, you can learn how to do the astrology. I'm working on something that, will be launched soon where I can help people to learn and to acquire those skills as well. Or you work with an astrologer like myself. If you want to work with me, you know where to find me on my website, which is always linked. And when you do that, you can really start to, first of all, it's the best way to understand yourself. Nothing comes even close. It's completely unparalleled, right? The best way to know thyself, which is the condition for entering into the mysteries of existence, knowing yourself, right? And secondly, you can align your actions and your activities with the cosmic flow, with the quality of the times in a way which is really superior. So you flow better into a life, in effect, right? With all of its challenges, with all of its ups and downs, and so on and so forth, right? So that being said, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Once again, I'm saying it if you haven't done so yet. And let me know in the comments what you want to see next. This is a community that we're building here. It's early days, and your support is much appreciated. Until the next time, bless yourself up. All the best.